Dear parents, warm greetings from STC Group of Institutions. The college was established in the year 2008. Since then, it has created milestones after each mile in the field of education. STC Degree College, the recognized and reputed for its exemplary results under Bangalore University and Bengaluru North University. Institution proudly presents 10 rank holders in BCom, BBA, BSc and BCA from Bangalore University. STC Degree College is located in the midst of green environment with high-tech infrastructure compared to the other colleges in the district. It is an institution which has 6 branches in different towns of the district. It is the first institution to do so with the rural and suburban environment. The college holds most innovative and modern technologies to provide stable and competitive education to the society. It has affordable admission fee and the admission process is simple of not minding the economic status of the parents. Since the institution is in outskirts, it provides free transportation within Kolar town. The institution is well equipped with digital library, laboratories, physics, chemistry, botany and zoology, computer labs, furnished classrooms, seminar hall, auditorium, indoor sports facilities and many more. The institution stands unique when it comes to teaching fraternity. It is balanced with experienced and young intellectual lecturers. Teaching inside classroom is lively, interactive and activity based. The students are encouraged to participate in cultural activities and sports competitions. The students are trained by experts from corporate industry and skill development agencies like ProEdge, The Time, RATS Technology Python. This training program is first introduced by our institution in the district. The institution takes much effort to place its students in their careers. The college has provided many placements to the students in different firms like Tech Mahindra, Infosys, Tally, Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, etc. Our college has taken this step for the benefits of the students of different colleges at district level. Various events and programs are conducted for the students with the closure of convocation program. Courses offered: UG courses BCom, BBA, BCA, in BSc, PCM, PCMCS, CBZ. PG courses MCom, MSc in Maths. Dear parents, choose the best college for your children's better education and overall development. Dear parents, warm greetings from STC Group of Institutions. The college was established in the year 2008. Since then, it has created milestones after each mile in the field of education. STC Degree College, the recognized and reputed for its exemplary results under Bangalore University and Bengaluru North University. Institution proudly presents 10 rank holders in BCom, BBA, BSc and BCA from Bangalore University. STC Degree College is located in the midst of green environment with high-tech infrastructure compared to the other colleges in the district. It is an institution which has 6 branches in different towns of the district. It is the first institution to do so with the rural and suburban environment. The college holds most innovative and modern technologies to provide stable and competitive education to the society. It has affordable admission fee and the admission process is simple of not minding the economic status of the parents. Since the institution is in outskirts, it provides free transportation within Kolar town. The institution is well equipped with digital library, laboratories, physics, chemistry, botany and zoology, computer labs, furnished
and respectfully welcome our beloved principal, Professor Pushpalata. I request ma'am to address all of us. Please, ma'am.
Very good morning, children. First, we should invite us to today's webinar, the eminent speaker, Dr. A. Yuvaraj, MA, MPhil, PhD, Assistant Professor, PG and Research Center, Department of English, Government Tirumagal Middle College, Gudiatham, delegate and participant. A warm welcome to all for one-day international webinar on language acquisition theories and their implications. Once again, I would like to welcome all participants and eminent speakers for this one-day international webinar. Just I want to give one glance about our college. Our college has been started in the year 2008-9, started by our secretary, Madam Srimati Usha Gangadhar, with a structure of 150 students, and now at present 1,500 students are pursuing in our esteemed institution with PG and UG courses. So our college is accredited with NAC B grade, and our academics has been emerged by the rankings earned by our students. Every year we had placement in our college, and many of our students have been placed in MNCs. This is about our college. Once again, a warm welcome to the eminent speaker, Dr. A. Yuvaraj, and thanks for our management for giving this wonderful opportunity for conducting one-day international webinar on English. All the best for the participants and delegates. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Our beloved principal has thrown light in a nutshell on the glory and accomplishments of our college. And also thank you for the word of welcome, ma'am. Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to extend a cordial welcome to Mrs. Usha Gangadhar, Secretary, SDC Group of Institutions. I also request, ma'am, our Honorable Secretary to address all of us. Please, ma'am.
Thank you. Words are some of the most powerful and important things. I know language is a tool of love and the weapon of hatred. It is a bright red warming flag of danger and stone foundation of the diplomacy and peace. Very good morning to one and all. I'm happy to see the delegates on the screen with the eminent speaker, Dr. Yuvraj. I welcome you all to this one-day international webinar. I admire people who dare to take the language English and understand it and understand the melody. I wish you all the best, great success, best of luck. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much for your kind and warm wishes. The upcoming event is the introduction of the resource person of today's international webinar. May I now request Professor Salma Jabin to introduce the resource person to the webinar. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Good morning to all. I am Salma Jabir, Department of English, SDC College, Kolar. At the outset, it's my prerogative to introduce the star-studded profile of our chief guest. Today, we have in our midst a distinguished professor of English in the form of Dr. Yuvraj, who has kindly consented to be the keynote speaker of our webinar. Professor Yuvraj's profile is truly venerable. Sir holds a master's degree in English from Madras University and MPhil from the same. The icing on the cake was when he was awarded PhD from Anna University, Chennai. Professor Yuvraj has cleared slate for lectureship, and coming to the research domain, his specializations are child language literature, language through literature, bilingualism, and teaching education. Sir is a skillful author. He has published articles in high impact in international and national journals. He has outdone himself when he published the article, A Grammar Game in English Teaching Professional, January 2012, issue 78, UK. Sir has conducted many workshops on topics like oral and writing skills, importance of non-verbal communication. I'm glad to express that during lockdown, Sir has presented webinar conducted by NSS College, Pandalam, Kerala. At present, Dr. Yuvraj is rendering his service in Government Thirumagal Mills College, Guriyatam, PhD and Research Center. According to Winston Churchill, the price of greatness is responsibility, and this suits our speaker pretty well. We are indeed privileged to have such an illustrious professor of the caliber of Dr. Yuvraj as a resource person, and it is a deemed honor for me to delineate Sir's profile. Thank you. Over to Sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Dear sir, on behalf of everyone, I offer a fraternal welcome to you. Without much ado, we will begin today's international webinar. I entreat Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. On behalf of everyone, I extend a fraternal welcome to Professor Yuvraj, today's resource person. Without much ado, we will begin today's international webinar. I entreat Professor Yuvraj to take over. Please, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. And good morning to one and all. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Yeah. So at the outset, I would like to thank the management, STC College, principal, and professor and head, Department of English, Professor Sujata, and the organizing committee for the wonderful opportunity. So I would like to begin my presentation, and I would like to focus on the PowerPoint. And after I'm done with my presentation, I would again switch on my camera. Is the screen visible, sir?
No, sir, not yet.
So can you ask the other participants to kindly turn off their video or for better bandwidth?
Sir, what, sir?
Yeah, if you can ask the other participants to turn off the video so that I can start with my presentation. So I'm finding it difficult to open my presentation.
Yeah, you can start your presentation, sir. They are muted. They are muted.
One minute. Is it visible, sir? Presentation? No?
No, sir, not visible.
No, not visible, sir.
The present option is not. 1 minute.
Sir, can you do one thing, sir? Hello. Am I audible, sir? Hello, sir. Am I audible, sir? Kindly unmute yourself, sir. Yuvraj, sir. Sir, kindly unmute yourself, sir. Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Hello.
Yes, yes, you are audible, sir.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Clearly. Can I assist you, sir?
Hello. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Your presentation is now visible, sir. You can go to the slides.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Can you see my presentation now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
I can start it.
Is my presentation visible?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can I start now?
Yes, sir. Please, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. You can start
Hello,
now.
can I start now? Is everybody there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can start.
Okay, can I start now? Can I start the presentation? Is my
Yes, sir.
presentation, is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Yes, okay, I'm going to start about, I'm going to make a presentation on language acquisition theories and their implications. And sorry for the technical delay. So I would like to start by presenting what is language acquisition. So language acquisition is a subconscious process of picking up language through exposure. So what is picking up language is, it is not learned in formal situations. It is learned in informal contexts. And the learners are unaware of the rules pertaining to language. It is this tacit knowledge which we talk about. So acquisition need not happen in the classroom. So as I told you, it's a subconscious process of picking up language. So this is somewhat similar to a child's first language learning. A child learns the first language not by learning formal rules and regulations, but he just picks up the language. And what do I mean by informal context? By informal context, I mean at home, children watch movies, they play games, and they listen to English songs. In the process, what happens is they pick up language. So this is what is called acquisition, and there are no rules pertaining to language. So rules are not taught or rules are not acquired by a learner. It is the tacit knowledge or it is the implicit knowledge of the learner. So acquisition need not happen in the classroom, as I told you. This is exactly opposite to what is learning. Learning is a conscious process and it happens within the four walls of the classroom, and rules are taught. So now another important aspect of it is input. So in order to understand or not to make sense of what input is, we have to know that input is nothing but the samples of the oral or written language a learner is exposed to. So a learner receives input by different ways. So as I told you, even by acquisition, a learner will receive the input. What are the different sources by which a learner can get the input? I have listed out. The one major source is the teacher and other learners in the classroom, and the environment, and these people are there around the environment. So language input is very important in language acquisition. And who provides the language input? It is the teachers. The teachers provide important and accessible language input, and they are expected to create opportunities for learners to develop their comprehension. So acquisition is a subconscious process of acquiring a second language, and input is nothing but samples of the oral or written language a learner is exposed to. And there are different sources from which a learner receives the input, one from the teacher, the other from the peers. The peers, I mean the other learners who are there in the classroom. And the teachers are expected to provide important, accessible input and create opportunities for learners for the input to get converted into output. And what other expectation we have from the teacher is the teacher should use right levels of complexity of vocabulary. So vocabulary, as we all know, right choice of words. Our vocabulary should not be very high sounding. At the same time, it should not be very simple. As well as the structures we use in the language should be fairly simple. Only then our learners can understand the content. The speed of delivery is again very important. At what pace am I going to speak? Am I going to speak very fast, or am I going to speak very slow, or I'm going to adopt a moderate speed? So the teacher should be aware of all these aspects, and a degree of clarity is also required. So with this, I would like to move on to the first theory. Before I start the first theory, that is behaviorism, I would like to talk about the Pavlov's experiment. It is quite a famous experiment that was conducted between 1890s and the next 10 years. The experiment was conducted by Pavlov, a Russian scientist. So what did he do? He struck a bell when the dogs were fed. So he was primarily interested in animal behavior. So what he did was, he used to ring a bell and then he feeds the dogs. So the bell was sounded in close association with their meal. So before they were fed their meal, they listened to the bell sound, and then they they were given the food. So what happened was, the dogs learned to associate the sound of the bell with the food. So what happens after a point of time, the mere sound of the bell, they started drooling. The dogs started drooling just by hearing the bell sound. This experiment was conducted with animals, and this experiment, the findings of the experiment, were later generalized to the field of education. So with this background to behaviorist theory, I would like to move on. The first language acquisition theory, behaviorism. So what is behaviorist theory? So the behaviorist theory says that the environment is the main source of learning. So now you can draw parallels. What Pavlov did was, he gave the stimulus. The stimulus was the bell sound, and the response was the dogs started drooling and the dogs were conditioned. So this finding was generalized even in the field of education. And so behaviorist theorists or advocates of behaviorism, what did they do? They thought the environment is the main source of learning. And who's there in the environment? For example, if the child is learning a language, in the environment we have the adults, the parents, siblings, and all of them are there in the process. And another important aspect of behaviorism is learning is viewed as a process in the formation of correct skills and desirable habits. That is, learning is equated with habit formation. So behaviorist claim was, learning is something measurable or observable behavior. So for that, what is required is the stimulus. So if the teacher provides the right stimulus, students will respond, and there should be reinforcement. Reinforcement is nothing but the feedback. The feedback the teacher gives to students. So now you can find the similarity between Pavlov's theory. So Pavlov says, Pavlov in his experiment, it was the bell sound. Here, the behaviorist theorists, they say, if the child is given the right stimulus or the stimuli, the child will respond. And if the response is correct, if the response is good, the teacher or the siblings at home will reinforce. That is what is the idea. So the major focus of this theory is on imitation and repetition. The child imitates the elders and he repeats, and he gets some sort of the input and he repeats. So repetition and imitation are the key words in behaviorist theory. Also, okay, in the classroom, what is the role of a learner? The role of the learner is passive. So I can also give an example of kindergarten. At the kindergarten level, you would have observed at the elementary level, teachers recite rhymes. They recite rhymes and they ask the children to repeat. So this is somewhat similar to your behaviorist theory. And the ALM method. The ALM method is active learning methodology. So in the in the audio-lingual methodology. So in the audio-lingual methodology, the same concept or the same theory is applied. In a class where a teacher uses behaviorist theory, the the ALM method is largely used. Okay, so audio, the listening is very important. They listen and they repeat, and in the process, they learn language. Precision and accuracy gain importance. So in this classroom, the teacher corrects learners' mistakes or learners' errors. Accuracy becomes very important. Okay, so if they deviate from the norm, if there are any errors to do with grammar or pronunciation or any linguistic aspects, the teacher is supposed to correct them immediately. So this is what is the behaviorist theory, and the main idea is learning happens primarily through imitation and repetition. This is what is the behaviorist theory of learning tells us. Then I would like to move on to the next theory, the nativist theory of language learning or language acquisition. So as we all know, if one theory is proposed, there will be definitely other researchers who will try to refute the theories. So this theory was, behaviorist theory was refuted by the nativists. What does the nativist theories claim is that human beings have unique abilities. So their main argument was you cannot just assume that the learner's mind is an empty slate, that he is passive in the classroom. The learner is active. The learner has a lot of unique abilities which are very unique to a learner. So they refuted the claim made by the behaviorist theorists, and Noam Chomsky, one of the influential personalities in the field of linguistics, he criticized behaviorism and behaviorist theory. Skinner's textbook, a very influential one, Skinner's textbook was on verbal behavior. This particular textbook was scathingly attacked by Noam Chomsky, who claimed that learners possess unique individual abilities. And it is not something similar to just like that, a clean slate wherein the teacher is supposed to transfer knowledge. It is not like that. That is what is the major claim by the nativist. And he also provided a lot of theoretical and empirical evidence to prove his claim. What was the claim? That a child makes use of innate linguistic abilities. And another major claim made by the nativist theorist was that language learning is an active process. When he says language learning is an active process, he means the learner is not passive in the classroom. The learner is an active participant. This is what is the key idea of nativist theories. With this, I would like to move on to the next theory, which is to a large extent related to the topic of my presentation, that is Stephen Gratian's theory of second language acquisition. So I think in the beginning of my presentation, I just told you what exactly is acquisition and learning, the difference between acquisition and learning. Acquisition is subconscious, whereas learning is conscious. And these are the 5 major hypotheses which Stephen Krashen popularized or advocated, as we call it. And what is the main idea? As I told you in the beginning, acquisition is a process where learners pick up language. Now, the COVID situation, most of the children are at home. What do? They are hooked onto the television. So sometimes we think they are simply whiling away time. They are not doing something useful, but you never know. These children might play games, or they might even watch some movies or listen to songs, and thereby they will learn some language. So it need not be English. So whichever language they are exposed to, they pick up the language. So what was Stephen Krashen's claim? His claim was, we need to create an acquisition-rich environment in the classroom. As teachers, we are supposed to create this kind of atmosphere in the classroom, which is important for the learners to pick up the language. But is it possible? Can we create this kind of environment in the classroom? It's a debatable question, which I would get back after some time. So the next hypothesis is the monitor hypothesis. So Stephen Krashen, in his second language acquisition theories, this is together we call it as a natural approach. So in this particular approach, he talks about the monitor hypothesis. What is the monitor hypothesis? He talks about the role of grammar in language learning. He says the role of grammar for any language is just that of a monitor. So what is the role of a monitor? As the name suggests, is to keep check. So whatever grammar we have learned, it helps us to identify grammar mistakes. With that, it is over. So if I make a grammar mistake, sometimes I become conscious of it and I correct the grammar mistake. Similarly, if somebody else makes a mistake in error pertaining to grammar, that I can identify. So Krashen's main argument is acquisition is very important for learning, for language, for learners to pick up language, and the role of grammar is very minimal. We need not give too much of importance to grammar because the role of grammar is just to monitor. And to what extent our linguistic rules are going to help us. So in this context, I would like to give an example from my experience. Before joining government service, I was teaching in a private engineering college. It was one of the fairly good engineering colleges where students from CBSE background, they used to study there. So when you ask them to speak, I used to conduct activities or debates. When you ask them to participate in activities and debates, yes, they are very good. Their language is exemplary. They are very proficient both in written as well as in oral communication. But if you ask one question on grammar, for example, if you ask them to differentiate a present perfect tense and a past perfect tense, they would not be in a position to give me an answer. And what is I'm relating it to Krashen's monitor hypothesis. So Krashen asks, what is the point? Why should we know whether it is a past tense or a present tense? Ultimately, what we have to do with language is communicate. The ultimate goal of language, the ultimate purpose of any language is to communicate. So the monitor hypothesis claims that the role of grammar is nothing but to check language deviations. If there are any errors, we need to point out those errors, and that is the purpose of learning grammar. The next is the input hypothesis. So about the input hypothesis, I would like to discuss in detail in the next slide. So time being, I would like to skip, and I would like to focus on the affective filter hypothesis. So what is the affective filter? Again, Krashen asks us to, or he says in his hypothesis that learners, especially second language learners, have a lot of anxiety. They have a lot of inhibition. They are jittery. They are nervous. All these things, he calls it as the affective filter. So if a learner is under a stressful condition, if he is stressed out, if he is full of anxiety, language learning will not happen. If the affective filter is more, language learning is less. If the affective filter is less, then the language learning is more. So this is what is the idea. So it is essential for us to create a less threatening or a stress-free atmosphere, especially for learners with limited proficiency, who form the majority of the learners are from limited English proficiency background. So as teachers, it is our responsibility to create an atmosphere which is less threatening and to make the learners feel more comfortable in the class. Only then we can hope to have some effective language learning in the classroom. So ultimately, to create optimal environments in the classroom. The next hypothesis talks about the natural order hypothesis. Again, the Krashen claims that there is a natural order in which first language is learned. The structures pertaining to first language. He says there is a particular order. It is an order which is predetermined. That is why it is called natural order. So there is a particular order in which all these structures are learned by or acquired by a first language learner. Just to give an example, research studies prove that ing forms are easy for a learner. So for example, the ing form of come, coming, go, going. He says these structures are learned or acquired easily by the learner than a subject-verb agreement or the first person or the second person. So this idea is again somewhat similar to our universal grammar. So the universal grammar concept, or the language universals as we call it, the particular theory highlights that for all languages there are certain commonalities. That is what is the universal grammar, which is somewhat similar to Stephen Krashen's natural order hypothesis. So as I told you, the input hypothesis is very essential, and it has played a very seminal role in second language acquisition, the role of input. So as I told you in the beginning, input is nothing but the samples. It could be a written sample or an oral sample to which the learner is exposed to. And input hypothesis is sort of an extension and application of some principles of nativism. And what is the role of, what is comprehensible input? So now the most important key term in Stephen Krashen's SLA, that is second language acquisition, is comprehensible input. I think for most of you, the word comprehensible would have given you the clue. Comprehensible is nothing but something that is easily understandable. So again, Stephen Krashen makes a claim that the input which we give to our learners should be comprehensible. So for this, he talks about I plus 1. So I is assume that I is the current competency level of the learner. As a teacher, what am I supposed to do is add plus 1. That plus 1 is nothing but, it could be any input which is fairly challenging. It should not be advanced. It should not be often at the advanced level. It should not be of the advanced level. It should be generally of a very what to say, like it should be of a very comprehensible. It should be comprehensible. It should to the level of the learner. It should not be too advanced. If it is too advanced, then the learners might find it difficult to acquire or learn the language. So comprehensible input, the major claim of comprehensible input is I plus 1, as I told you. I is nothing but the current competency level of the learner, plus 1 is the addition which we are supposed to do. So what does it tell for the teacher? It tells that as teachers, we should be very careful enough to give a task or to give a reading comprehension passage which is not very challenging, not very difficult. So the next focus of Krashen's input hypothesis is to focus on the meaning of the input. So again, as I told you, don't focus more on the linguistic aspects, the grammatical aspects. The focus should be more on the meaning. So
Sir, please unmute yourself. Sir, please unmute yourself, sir. Hello. Sir, please unmute yourself, sir. Sir, please unmute yourself, sir. Your voice is not audible. Madam, call. Hello. Please unmute yourself, sir. Please unmute yourself, sir. Yes, sir.
கேக்குதா? ஓகேவா?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
கேக்குதா?
Audible, sir.
Presentation கேக்குதா?
கேக்குறது சார், கேக்குறது.
Presentation visible இருக்கா?
Hello, sir. கேக்குறது சார்.
Visible இருக்கா? Start from here?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Thank you. So fluency is given more importance. Sorry for the technical struggle because I heard like somebody had muted me. I'm not sure. So sorry for the technical glitches. So fluency is given more importance, and errors are viewed as errors indicate an important stage in the language development process, and fluency is given utmost importance. So with this, I would like to move on to the next theory, which is the interactionist theory. The interactionist theory talks about, that is the learners and people, interaction is very important. So interaction between the learners and the people is more important. That is what the interactionist theorists claim. Interaction plays a key role in any language learning process, in language acquisition process, and negotiation of meaning. So what do I mean by negotiation of meaning is adapting the language in accordance to the situation. This is the major theory which has influenced communicative language teaching. So what is communicative language teaching? CLT focuses on creating a stress-free atmosphere, or an atmosphere wherein language can happen. So negotiation of meaning is very important, and interaction between the learners and the elders is very important for successful language acquisition. So this is the basis for CLT, which is communicative language teaching, and for all humanistic approaches. So as I told you, affective factors are to be considered. So affective factors, I just gave an idea of what affective factors are. They are nothing but the stress and anxiety levels should be largely reduced. And the emphasis is on creating a conducive learning atmosphere. So the teachers are supposed to create a conducive learning atmosphere for language learning to take place, and create opportunities for learner-to-learner interaction, and we should encourage learners to discuss in pairs and in groups. And as far as materials are concerned, what kind of materials? We need to use authentic materials. So what do we mean by authentic materials? It's nothing but the materials which learners will get an opportunity to really use. For example, if a learner goes to the bank, so what is the kind of questions he might have to ask in English? This is what we mean by authentic materials. So materials that give the learners an opportunity to use language in real life situations. Now the next theory is the cognitive theory, and before I talk about cognitive theory, I will talk about the cognitive processes. So the following are the cognitive processes. So the cognitive theorists, they focus more on the mind of the learner. They are exactly opposite to the behaviorist aspect, because behaviorism talks about only the child being a passive listener, whereas cognitivism places utmost importance to the mind of the learner. The mental structures of the learner are very important. So these are the following aspects which are given importance in cognitivism. The cognitive processes are thinking, problem solving, concept formation, and information processing. So what are the key aspects of cognitive theories? So cognitive theories emphasize how information is received, stored, analyzed, and retrieved by the mind. So the mind is very important. So how we receive information, how the mind receives the information, how the information we received is stored and it is analyzed, and later on retrieved by the mind is important. So this is somewhat similar to, I can draw parallels from cognitive theories to Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy talks about the higher order thinking skills. So what are the higher order thinking skills? First, the learner should grasp, that is, he should remember, then he has to understand, then he has to apply, then he has to analyze, then evaluate, and then create. It is somewhat similar to Bloom's taxonomy, or Bloom's what we call the higher order thinking skills. So cognitivism, the cognitive theorists, stress give lot of importance on the mind, and they say mind is very important because only the mind receives the information, stores the information, analyzes, and retrieves later on. So the learner again is an active participant in the learning process, and the learners should gain the ability to relate new information to prior knowledge and apply the knowledge in different contexts. For example, if your learner has acquired language or have acquired some skills, so those skills are applicable even for that transferable. That's what he means. Those skills and knowledge should be transferable in other domains. For example, we all would have read literature. We all would have read a lot of stories. And each and every character, from each and every character, we learn something. Assume our student is in the BA English major. He has read some novels and he has understood, or he has started learning how to empathize with other characters. So after a few years, he happens to become the team leader. So in a team, what happens is there will be different people from different backgrounds. So as a team leader, he has to be very calm and composed. And sometimes if one of his team, one of the persons who's working under him, if he or she has any problem, he should be in a position to empathize. So this is what we mean by transferring the knowledge. So the learner has the ability to first relate to new information and then transfer the information in new situations. This is what is the major focus of cognitivism. So cognitive theorists reiterate that the mind or the mental structures which a learner forms is very important. And these mental structures are referred to as schemata. So it is what we call schema theory in the field of applied linguistics, and it is not confined only to applied linguistics. It is drawn from various fields too. Then I would like to move on to constructivism. So constructivism is something very similar. Learning should happen in realistic situation and make the learning relevant to the level of your learner, and let your learning be based on the learner's experience. And the last point is very important. He says, the last point is important because it is constructivism is somewhat similar to your experiential learning. So nowadays we talk about experiential learning. So what is experiential learning? It's nothing but giving your learners hands-on experience. So what do you mean by experiential learning? Maybe taking them to field trips, giving them project work, making them do assignments. So these are what we call it as experiential learning, and constructivist theory is the basis for experiential learning, which we talk about it right now. So now, the major question which anybody would like to ask, why theories? Why should we know these theories? These theories have been there for quite some time. So why should we know these theories? And some of you who might be listening, you might even ask, I have more than 25 years of experience. And why should I have to refer to those theories? In what way it is going to make myself better? I humbly accept, yes, your experience is equally valid. Based on your experiences, you can formulate your own theories. But the existence of these learning theories, what it is going to do is, it will give us some kind of new insights, or it will provide significant insights into what makes students effective and efficient learners. Okay. When we understand, okay, fine, there is something called cognitive theories. These theories give a lot of importance to the mind of the learner. And it also tells that each learner is different. And we all know, in a classroom, the classroom is not a homogeneous classroom, it's a heterogeneous classroom. So what we mean by heterogeneous classroom, we have learners from varied learning levels. So where does the variation comes from? It comes from a lot of socio-economic reasons. So, and their cognitive ability, more than socio-economic reasons, the cognitive ability of each and every learner varies. So accordingly, I have to choose my material. So these theories will give us some significant insights into what makes students effective and efficient learners. And the next point is, we can understand the roles of the educator and the learner in the classroom. So what is my role as an educator, and what is the role of the learner? It also helps us in making informed decisions pertaining to second language pedagogy. So these theories are quite important because when we frame a syllabus or when we frame a curriculum, we need to have these theories in mind. It would be to an extent useful. So I would like to just give share an experience, an idea which was shared by Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan of IIM Bangalore. I think 2 weeks before there was a webinar, I had an opportunity to listen to Madam, and towards the end of her presentation, she made an appeal, I would say, a sort of a fervent appeal to all those edtech companies. So now that is, as we all know, now online teaching is the new norm and is the buzzword, and all of us are resorted to online methods of teaching. So what Professor hinted was to all those edtech companies, she says, yes, you are trying your level best to create a lot of interactive learning management systems, but always have in mind, so long the history of the tradition of language learning or the tradition of learning has been based on time and tested theories. So we cannot just like that throw away these theories and just say we are just going to follow an entirely new concept not in other countries, maybe in our country. So given the background of the learners, given the constraints we right now face as teachers, we have to think whether certain things work or not. So the theories will not give us a quick fix solution. Theories will not tell us, okay, fine, there is a solution for the problem, because each and every classroom is unique and each and every teacher is unique. So these theories will give us an idea about how to take informed decision, either as a teacher or in case if some of you happen to decide on the syllabus later on in future. This would give us some sense of direction or an idea of how do I go about prescribing the curriculum or the syllabus. So what are the implications for the classroom? So the implications, I would say that the errors which the learners commit, again, I'm just trying to sort of reinforce whatever the theories are stated. So we have to understand that errors are not signs of retrogression. Retrogression is, it is not that the learners, they don't show progress. We have to view errors as signs of learning. So that is that is what is the implication we get out of it. And we have to understand that it is quite normal. It is not only for the teachers. I assume like there are a few students at least who are listening. I just make an appeal to students that don't get dejected or depressed when you make mistakes. All of us commit mistakes. So even after 20 years of experience or 30 years of experience, we do prepare a lot. We do sit and practice, and then we come in present. It is not that without preparation or without hard work, nothing is going to happen. So as learners who are all at the beginning stages of learning, errors are common. So this is a major problem why learners never take the effort to use the language. One thing, they are afraid of making mistakes because of peer pressure. So in the classroom, if they make mistakes, he or she might think that how would my friend view it? Will he make fun of me? So I think it's time that learners need to be aware that all these theories clearly point out that in any language, in any learning, making errors is normal. After all, we are all human beings and the world is not perfect. I mean, committing a mistake or things go awry, sometimes it happens. So we have to learn. If we don't have the tolerance, then we are not supposed to be in this profession at all. So I think as teachers and as learners, we have to understand that errors play an important role in the process of learning. It is not that I recommend that we have to commit errors throughout. In the initial process, when we start learning, when we attempt to learn a new language, errors are important and they are essential. If you don't commit a mistake, if there are no errors, then there is something seriously wrong with the learning process, which means you are not taking the genuine effort. Maybe you are just memorizing it, or your cut copy, you resort to this cut copy paste method. If you are really interested in using the language, then you will make mistakes. And this is what I thought I would share as a teacher to learners especially, because don't be afraid of making mistakes, because errors are part and parcel of any learning endeavor. And the next important implication for the classroom is to activate prior knowledge. And this is the objective of a pre-reading session. So before we do a reading task, before we give our learners a reading task, it is essential that we give them a discussion, or we can ask them some questions. Why it is essential? Because it activates prior knowledge. What is the prior knowledge? As I told you in the beginning itself, it is nothing but a schema. The schema is nothing but the knowledge structures, epistemology, as we call it, the knowledge structures which are there in the learner's mind has to be activated. So this is very important. And in this context, I would like to talk about Piaget. Piaget, who is very influential, he says like schemata is very important even for a child. The child has its own schemata. Even a 2-year-old child has its own knowledge. And we cannot just take it for granted and say a child doesn't know anything. Even a small child has schemata, he has his knowledge. And that is what he talks about assimilation and accommodation. So he says that assimilation is a process by which an organism or a learner interacts with the environment and he becomes intelligent. He gains knowledge and he becomes intelligent. That is what is assimilation, according to Piaget. And then he talks about one particular concept called accommodation. He says we should not stop with assimilation as teachers. We should make the learners go to the next level. And what is the next level? It is accommodation. So when can accommodation happen? The cognitive, the mental structures, the schemata. Again, the learner interacts with the environment and he gains knowledge. And when that particular interaction modifies the cognitive structure, if the interaction with the outside world modifies the cognitive structure of an individual, of an organism, that is called accommodation. So he makes the difference between assimilation and accommodation. So if how do I relate it to the classroom teaching? If teachers give a reading material which is very simple, what happens there is assimilation. Students will assimilate the information, but there is no accommodation. So what we are supposed to do is the material should be to an extent known and to an extent not known. So this would guarantee that there is both assimilation as well as accommodation. This is what is Piaget's. Piaget has done a lot of research on psychology and child language learning. He talks about assimilation and accommodation. And again, one more theorist comes to my mind is Vygotsky. So Vygotsky differs from Piaget in one aspect. Piaget gives utmost focus to the individual learner. He says the learner is responsible for acquiring knowledge, whereas Vygotsky claims that the culture and the interaction with the others, that is, he calls it as more knowledgeable others, MKO. Vygotsky talks about MKO. So the more knowledgeable others, they play an active role in the interaction process. So according to Vygotsky, if the learners interact with the more knowledgeable others, or if the learner has social interactions, that is more important for a learner to acquire knowledge. So again, if I relate it to the language learning aspect, the second language learning aspect of it, I would say that as teachers, we are supposed to give them material, tasks or reading comprehension or whatever material we give. We should see to it that it is not so easy, at the same time not so difficult, a mean between the two extremes. And I think at this point, I think I already stated that is a need to create a congenial atmosphere for interaction. And the constructivist approach is we need to make learning an experience for them. That is what is experiential learning all about. So I have sort of summed up the implications from all these theories. So these theories have a lot of implications in the classroom. And as teachers, I think if we are to an extent sensitive of these theories, we can aspire to be the better teachers. I mean, it doesn't mean like all of us are not good. All of us are maximum. We are doing our best to make the learning process very interesting one for the learners. But if we know these theories, I think it would make us think. It would make us ponder and check to see to what extent my teaching strategy works best for the learners. Yeah, with that, I would like to stop my presentation. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer.
Dear sir, indeed, the session was quite educative informative, interesting, fascinating. I can use plenty of adjectives to describe that. In short, you have dealt with today's topic, language acquisition theories and their implications in a very comprehensive manner. Thank you very much, sir. Now, the forthcoming event is question answer session. I solicit Professor Sujata Gopinath to present the question answer session. Please, ma'am.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, are there any questions, please?
Yeah, actually, we are not finding any questions in the chat box, but here is a question from my side. Like, what is your idea of bilingual teaching in the classroom, sir? Sir, good morning. Audible? Sir, am I audible? Yuvraj, sir, here is a question. What is your idea of bilingual teaching in the classroom?
Hello, Yuvraj sir. Yuvraj sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible, sir.
Yes, sir. Now, Sujata madam will pose the question, madam, sir.
Yeah, I think there is a question by one.
Sir, am I?
I think I could read the question. Being a communicative professor, how can I help my students to acquire fluency? Yes, sir. So that is what we are trying to address. So fluency is nothing but if your learners are comfortable to do a particular task, I think that is what is fluency. If they can do it without much effort, then I think you are successful. So the main idea is to create opportunities for them to be fluent in the use of English. So fluency is not something when somebody speaks very fast. So it would be better if you can ask your learners to cast off, I would say, like throw away the inhibition first. You just give them the motivation so that the learner gets the confidence. Once he gains confidence, half the battle is won. That is what I think. Fluency is, he'll definitely acquire fluency in the due course of time. Yeah, so what is your idea of bilingual teaching? Bilingual teaching is the norm right now, sir, and it's like, I think Sujata Neetu has asked a question, your idea of bilingual teaching. So bilingual teaching is catching up at a very fast pace, I would say, but there are many issues relating to bilingual teaching, madam, because how do we bring that into the classroom? But I think as teachers in government colleges, we resort to bilingual teaching. Because if you address our students or if you lecture only in English, it is not helpful to a large extent. So what we do is we also resort to this bilingual teaching. So bilingual teaching is very good because our L1 is a wonderful resource. We can tap our mother tongue or our L1 to teach our learners second language. It is a wonderful area and it is a wonderful research area too. So if you have any idea of pursuing research on this area, it's a wonderful area. But you can try it out in your classroom to check to see how far it works in your classroom. Yeah, another question is, regional language is dominating English language, how to open the situation? So I think generally researchers throughout the world talk about English language dominating the regional language. But this is a very interesting question, that is regional language dominating English language. And I think it's, we have to, I think English has gained its status as a world language. I don't think English will be shadowed unless and until there is another language which will claim this kind of acknowledgement. But I think researchers, language researchers are very much concerned about how the other lesser known languages, regional languages are dominated by English language. Yeah, and Mr. John Sundarajan Jairaj, he asked about, can you explain eclectic method of teaching? So eclectic method is a combination of different methods. So again, we have to understand, sir, there is no one method that is ideal for any classroom. So a particular method which works very well in my classroom need not work in your classroom. So, so as a teacher, I think you are a wonderful resource, and I think I would suggest a book by Kumara Vadivelu. The title of the book is Beyond Methods. So he wonderfully talks about the validity of each and every method, and he talks about we are in a post-method era, he says. So we have come away, we have moved away from the methods approach, and we are now moved towards the post-method era. If you can refer to the book, it is very interesting and very helpful. And eclectic method, to your question, eclectic method is the method which we all follow in our classrooms, because the same method of teaching will not work in all classrooms. Even in the same college, if you teach, for each class, our method of teaching varies depending on various factors. I hope I have answered your question. So if there are no more questions, can we wind up? Is there anybody there to?
One more question from Shakti Ved. Yuvraj sir, audible? Hello. There is one more question from Yuvraj. Sorry.
Do we have the organizers there? Anyone? Is anybody there?
Am I audible, sir? Hello, am I audible, sir? Am I audible, sir? Yuvraj sir? Hello, Yuvraj sir? Yuvraj sir? Yuvraj sir, am I audible? Now I request sir to give.
Yes, there's another question on how blended learning and teaching facilitate both students and faculties during the pandemic while conducting classes. Yes, blended learning is to an extent helpful, madam. Again, Shakti Velsa. So the blended learning will facilitate definitely the learning process, but again, statistics tells us that only 46% of our students have access to even television. So that is my concern. Maybe I always feel that to what extent our blended learning can be a reality, because we talk about inclusivity. So we need to include all the learners, but sadly in our country, without the facilities, more than 50% of the learner populations are not included. And it is a surprise, because when some of us talk about blended learning or flipped classrooms, hybrid learning, and all the latest technologies that are available, there are more than 50% of the learner population which is deprived of even a basic facility like television. So that is the reality. But your question is, it facilitates to a large extent because we have no other alternative. But I am very convinced that nothing can compensate your own face-to-face interaction in the classroom. So your in-class teaching can never be compensated for the online classes. But now, because of the COVID situation, we have no other go, because we cannot just leave our learners. So we can resort to this blended learning. It to an extent facilitates classes. Classes are going on, but to what extent are they effective? To what extent can we engage our learners? That is the key point. Learner engagement is the key point. So it is very difficult to engage the learners. Even now you would have seen, yesterday we had a trial, and yesterday two times even I tried it out presenting my PPT, but today it went berserk. And I take this opportunity, since you have asked this question, I take this opportunity to be apologetic to the audience, because it was purely inadvertent. Despite doing all these rehearsals, we could not start exactly on time, and it was a technical fault. So that is why I'm always quite skeptical of technology. To what extent technology can be effectively used, but now we have no other go, because I am not tech savvy. So only just a month before or 2 months before I started using these, even I would say my laptop, I'm using it to the fullest only just 2 months before. So with the situation, if a person who has some kind of education, if I'm finding it difficult, then imagine our learners who do not have the infrastructure first and foremost, how do they take it? And that is what is the case of concern. Yes, whether fluency can be useful to all students. That means students having little knowledge. I think Joshua, Mr. Joshua Ishwa has asked this question. I think fluency useful in the sense, if you are fluent in the use of English, if you can do it without much effort in any skill for that matter. So fluency is nothing to do with only speaking. Fluency is in writing also. So in writing, we call it as the flair for English. So if you have the flair for English, and if you do a particular task without much effort, that is what is fluency. Yes. And students, that means the students having little knowledge about language. Yes, little knowledge about language. Again, knowledge about language is not that important. We have to ensure that knowledge of English is important. So they have to use the language rather than knowing grammar. That is what is knowledge about the language. What is the difference between task-based teaching and communicative teaching? Yes, in task-based teaching, the focus is on the tasks. There is a goal. When you say a task, there is a common goal for us to accomplish. Whereas the idea of communicative language teaching is to focus on the communicative aspects of it. So the way we, how do we communicate? How do we put across our views to the other learners? That is what is communicative language teaching is all about. Whereas task-based teaching is, we are giving the learners a task, and there is a goal for the learner. There is a goal that could be in a classroom. If you divide the learners into 2 groups, you can ask them to complete a task. They have a collective goal to accomplish. That is what is TBLT. That is task-based language teaching, as we call it. And the CLT is communicative language teaching, where the focus is more on the communicative aspects of language. Yeah, meta language. Meta language is it is talking about language, madam. Again, so it is not about language. It is talking about beyond language. So it becomes a sort of a philosophical discourse wherein we talk about epistemological approach to language, and that is what is meta language, beyond language. Okay, so we don't talk about it in the real sense. We talk about beyond the language. What are the aspects that are important? To an extent, it has a very little bearing on some of the issues we deal in our classroom, because my presentation focused on how do we make ourselves as teachers as well as learners even more effective. As a learner, how can I be a better learner? And as a teacher, how can I better myself as a learner? So meta language is nothing but it is talking beyond the language. Yeah, there's one question. Being in lockdown, what best tips right now we can suggest faculties and students to keep up online to polish their language skills? So nothing can compensate reading. So even if it is online, reading is the same. So if you can read whatever material that is available, not very what we call lengthy pieces of reading. Nowadays we have this short readings. We have many forums like the WordPress.com. We have Medium. And all these apps, if you can download, if you can ask your students to download, they talk about n number of issues. So the students can pick and choose, or even your faculty members can pick and choose the right writer, write whatever short writings on various topics. So anything under the sun is available. So you can refer to those. You can suggest those online or these apps are readily available. They can download in their Android mobile, and they are very short reads, 2-minute reads, 4-minute reads, and 5-minute reads. So based on that, they can definitely acquire language skills, I would say. So again, what are the struggles will be acquired by the SLA students? I think, yeah, that is quite common. All second language students have a lot of issues to grapple with, and acquisition for them is a bit difficult. I mean, it becomes a bit difficult for them because unless and until they get exposed to a language in different ways. Nowadays, there is no one method because more than the teacher, now they acquire language from the internet, from watching movies, from listening to songs, from interacting with their peers. So you can encourage them. That would definitely give them an opportunity. Yeah,
Now we have
there's one question. In rural areas, there are so many students who cannot focus on fluency. How these overcome? Yeah, I think I answered this question, madam, because another professor or another participant asked this question. So I think I answered the question. When Manisha.
We have come to the conclusion of today's international webinar rather. I request Professor Abhimanyu to propose the vote of thanks. Please, sir.
Good morning to one and all. I, Abhimanyu Kumaras, Assistant Professor of English, SDC College, Kolar, take this opportunity in proposing vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Yuvraj, Speaker of the Day, for accepting and delivering a session with us. I'm sure that we were educated about the language acquisition and implication process and appreciate his insights on it. On behalf of SDC Group of Institutions, Kolar, and participants, I thank you, sir. I now thank Ms. Usha Gangadhara, Secretary, SDC Group of Institutions, Kolar, for her guidance and directive encouragement. Thank you, madam. I thank Ms. Pushpalata, Principal, SDC Degree College, for her constant support in each and every activity conducted. Thank you, ma'am. I thank the conveners, Professor Sujata S. and Professor Shabas Kalandar, for arranging and executing the webinar proceedings. I thank the technical team, Arun sir, Professor Rekha, Professor Shruti, Professor Nagma, and Professor Bindu. Thank you all. I also thank the organizing team, Professor Salma Jabin and Professor Gurunarayan. Last but not the least, I thank all the international and national participants for making this webinar a success. Once again, I thank one and all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thank you.